Lazer. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen the new PP and score update, and you're one of these three. The first one is tried it and you think it's cool, but since it's not fully transitioned, you prefer not to play on it. The second is you never heard of it, you didn't even know it was a thing. And the third one, you probably tried it and you just think that it feels very different, doesn't run well on your PC, it doesn't feel like the same game, just doesn't feel right. But the thing is that if you didn't configure Lazer the right way, it will feel very different to also stable. So today, we'll try to make also Lazer as similar as possible to also stable and hopefully have a very pleasant experience with Lazer. Alright, so my name is Shike and let's start. So the first thing that you want to do is go to the download page of OSU. If you can't find it, I will leave it in the description below. And you just download OSU Lazer. Once you launch it, you will see how it starts loading and... So the first thing that you will see is this pop-up. So you want to click your language and then get started. UI scaling, I will just leave it like this. So here you can choose either of them, it doesn't really matter. But now this is when it really matters, so pay attention here because this is really important. So in this case, my previous OSU install happens to be in the same place where OSU Lazer is gonna be installed by default. But this might not be the case for you, so as you're seeing here, I'm changing the previous OSU install to another OSU install that I have in another disk. And now I get this message here in the bottom. So you don't want to get this message basically. It will make your game very laggy, kind of unplayable, and in general it's better to not make a second copy of all your files. And make sure you choose the right OSU installation. So as you can see, I get this error here, but don't really worry about this. I get this error because I did this a couple times before. Just remember that in order for it to work properly, you should be seeing this message instead of the other one that I showed you before. So yeah, now that we are importing our stuff, we will click on next. So this is a very important step. So you want to go with classic defaults. So if these green boxes are a little bit annoying, you can just throw them around. Alright, just click on finish. So if we try to look at the gameplay, you will see that it doesn't quite look familiar yet, but don't worry, we will now go through the settings that actually matter. Now we're gonna go to the general settings. You can do this by pressing Ctrl O. The first thing you want to do, disable the tablet driver. If you alt tab outside of OSU, you won't be able to use your tablet, so it's a bit inconvenient. After that, you can go ahead and change your key binding. In order to be able to change the keys, you have to scroll down so much. I feel like Stable does a better job where you click on change the key bindings. What you see on the top is probably what you went there for. It would be nice if this is changed, but I guess for now we just have to scroll down a lot. So now we go back and we make sure the high precision mouse is on. After that, just make sure that you disable the clicks during gameplay. Now you're gonna click in this little circle here and we are just straight up just gonna disable all these options. Make sure that background dim is 100% and blur is 0%. I recommend you just disabling the second. The first one is more preference. Here where it says show replay settings overlay, well, it really depends. So for example, if you are just watching a replay and you want to change around the things, then it's probably nice to have this menu here. But if you're gonna record a play of yours inside the Lazer client, then I just recommend you disabling it, so it looks cleaner on the recording. But there's one thing that I really don't understand from OSU Lazer, and is that it lets you change all these settings while you're in the replay. When you go to play the map, you keep those settings. Why? I really don't understand. I really don't understand why this is a thing. I don't know if this is an intentional feature or it's just supposed to be a bug or something that is not developed, but I think it's really dumb and needs to be changed. For now, let's enable the key overlay because of something that I'm gonna show you later. So now I recommend you to disable snaking in sliders. Now click on the little computer here. So here just make sure that you're in full screen. So here in the renderer, it's very important to have it in DirectX 11. The only way I will recommend you using OpenGL is if you're having latency issues with your audio. So this actually happened to me and OpenGL happened to fix it. So yeah, you can give it a try and see if that fixes it. So now here for frame limiter, I just recommend you to really use VSync or 2x refresh rate. I know in OSU Stable it really matters the FPS that you get, but here in Lazer it really does not matter. Even if you had 60 FPS in Lazer, it really doesn't matter. The reason behind this is because if you have the threading mode set to multi-threaded, your inputs will always be tracked at 1000 Hz of polling rate. So basically, even if you have 60 FPS, your inputs and everything will be tracked as if you had 1000 FPS. If I show the FPS, you'll see 400 FPS that matches with my 400 Hz monitor, and then you will see that I have 1.0 ms latency, which equals to 1000 FPS. So yeah, just use some VSync or 2x refresh rate. I really like using VSync because it just makes the game look so smooth, but it's true that it can feel like my cursor moves a bit slower sometimes. So maybe if I'm playing some DT or something, I'll just play with 2x refresh rate, it should be more than enough. But basically the main thing is make sure that threading mode is multi-threaded. Unless you're lagging or something, I'll recommend you just having this in multi-threaded. Make sure that you're using hardware acceleration. I recommend you checking this option so you can save some space. On the very bottom, you'll see a button that says clear all cache. So only do this if your game is behaving a bit weird, things don't work properly, or you're just lagging, is unplayable or something. This button might fix everything. So yeah, that'll be it. Let's go get a map and see how things have changed, and it looks a lot better, but you still see some awkward things like the key overlay or that bar at the bottom. But now we're gonna go through the skinning options and we're gonna try to make everything feel more familiar. First of all, feel free to download any skin. I'll use Moonshine in this case, but you can use whatever you want. So immediately after that, you can see it looks a lot better, right? But we're gonna go a bit further. Click on the button that says Skin Layout Editor, and then you will get this menu, where you will literally be able to customize almost everything. First of all, we want to make the key overlay look normal, but as you can see, if I try to rotate it here, it still looks weird, it's not the right thing. So what we're gonna do is just delete it, and then we're gonna look for Argon Counter Display, this one here. Rotate it and then drag it to the right side of the screen, and it's gonna look very decent. Very similar to the one that we have in OSU standard. Alright, so next we go back to the Skin Layout Editor. You can add a PP counter here if you want. So go to the performance points counter object and just make it a little bit bigger and put it on the right side of the screen. So the next thing that we can do is basically get rid of this object and we can make our own HP bar. So we can put our own player avatar, we can put the flag next to it, and then we can get the player name right next to it too. Just like that. And then we get the default health display and basically we'll try to make it fit there. So as you can see, when I press escape, it doesn't really look very good. And it's because Lazer is a bit weird sometimes, and when you place objects, they don't appear exactly how you see it in the preview. This will get fixed in the future, so no problem with that. We'll just adjust it manually, so we had to move it a little bit to the left and save and see every time if it looks good enough. So here I'm moving it a little bit to the left, but it's too much. So in order to make this HP bar look good, we have to right click it, and where it says anchor, we choose the top center. Then we move it a little bit to the left and just pray that it would look good. Yeah, I made it a little bit shorter, I moved it a little bit to the left, and it seemed to work out just fine. Even though it overlaps a little bit with the other objects, when it comes to actual gameplay, it just looks completely fine. It's kind of a bummer that you have to kind of like calculate it perfectly without seeing exactly what you're doing, but you know, it doesn't take more than like 1 or 2 minutes, and I think it looks pretty cool. This is how our OSU looks now. It looks pretty normal, it looks pretty good. If you show this to a person that hasn't played OSU for 3 or 4 years, they might think it's actually just an update that happened in the actual OSU. They might just think that it's OSU stable with a different skin or something. The chances are that while you're playing, you're not gonna feel any difference between stable and Lazer. If you still feel like the Lazer doesn't feel right, it's just probably because of the slider head accuracy, which you can completely get rid of if you just use the classic mod. So classic mod will make it behave exactly like OSU stable, and you should have 0 issues with it. So I play some time with this mod, a little bit in Lazer, and to be honest, sometimes I actually forget that I'm playing Lazer. It just feels exactly like OSU. So yeah, after this, you really have no excuse to not play Lazer. So there's one little thing that it might be very dumb, but I think it makes a whole difference. And it's that the bar at the top here that you can see, you can actually hide it, and it makes such a great difference. It's like, I don't know if you feel what I mean. I think you have to get in game to really feel what I mean. But it's like, it makes everything bigger, and it has a better immersion, I think. And it looks more like OSU stable. So maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm delusional. If you just deactivate that little thing, it just looks so much better. So whenever you want, you can also enable it. Just press Ctrl T again, and that will do the trick. Last but not least, I want to add one more little object to the skin that I think is really nice, especially when you're watching replays. Alright, so the very last object that we're gonna add in the skin editor is gonna be the Argon Song progress. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do it like this, and then we're gonna flip it, and then we're gonna put it like around here or so, like very small. So hopefully that fits. That doesn't fit, you already know, guys, what you have to do. Just make it a bit smaller and hope for the best. That's not the worst, but we can make it a little bit better. And alright, that's about good. So why is this useful? Is because as you see here, we're watching a replay, and something that we always wanted to do is just like go back and forth when we're watching a replay. And I think this is the most non-invasive way of doing it. So yes, you can go back and forth here, and while you're playing, it's not very disturbing. Like, as you can see, like, you can barely see it while you're playing, and then whenever you want to watch this part of the replay, you can just do it. And it's the last thing we need to make our Osu Lazer experience the best, basically. That'll be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and also thank you so much for the support that this channel has had so far, even though we only have 3 videos in the channel. I'll be back soon with more content, so please expect that in the future. Have fun.